the man that knows the cap, bonuses and all of that. He's the one that gets you good. Front office, so don't give a word. He's the guy who knows the law, can't put him against the wall. He's the guy with all the answers. Matt and Chuck are backup dancers. Front office knows it all. Front office knows.
It's an incredibly informative segment brought to you by Delos Vodka, the vodka straight out of Texas, handcrafted in small batches, 6 times distilled. It's smooth, it's wonderful, it's Delos Vodka. Ask for it at your bar and refreshing at your store as well. Kirk Herbstreit, heard of him, right?
Herbie. Hi, Herbie.
I like him.
Second and 8.
I like the work he does on game day. I think that he's now become that guy that when it's not the CBS 3:30 game, when Herbie shows up to do your game, you know it's a big game. Saturday night game, there's Herbie. He's there. He's doing your game. It's
Plus,
a big game.
He rid himself of Brent a couple of years ago.
I don't want to comment on that.
That's a big win for him.
See,
Continue.
for some people, that might hurt him. But for me, I just say, okay, that's what happened. So he was asked on Twitter about who he thought had the opportunity to make the college football playoffs. And as he noted this on Twitter, too early to lock down the specific 4.
I know 2 of the teams he's going to say without even thinking.
I think a lot of it is go for it.
He's got Bama and Ohio State.
He's got Bama and Ohio State.
Shocking. Then he went USC.
Southern Cal.
I've had him 3 for 3. The last one, he went...
Oh, no. He covered himself. He went about 6 teams and have a chance.
I'll have a chance. Well, he's right about that. Usually about 6 or 7.
Right.
He threw Michigan in there for Harbaugh.
No, he's an Ohio State guy. He doesn't do that.
He wouldn't even throw a bone to Michigan?
No, not at all. But he did
He
point out
went Florida State.
Florida State, and also Clemson, LSU, and Washington.
Shocking.
Now, this is the point I ultimately want to make out of all this. Just because Kirk Herbstreit did not mention your team doesn't mean you don't have a chance at this. It's just pretty obvious.
He hates your team. That's why he didn't mention. He doesn't like your team.
Totally hates your team. But I want to point this out, too, especially over the first couple of years of the college football playoff system. Even the initial rankings that come out in November, when we get to around week 10, week 11, even over the first couple of years of this system, there's been teams that have come out of the back of the pack that have made it in. Think about last year. Now, last year's a little bit different. Alabama was number 1. Clemson was number 2 on the initial rankings. Washington was 5. Ohio State was 6. So that's where you got the additional 2 teams. Again, not crazy. They were in the top 6. But how about 2014? Florida State debuted at number 2.
Right.
Oregon at number 5. Alabama at number 6. Again, not crazy. Ohio State was 16th.
Yeah.
They moved all the way up.
Not impossible at all.
To go win the national championship.
Now, they also have great name value. It makes it easier for them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It certainly does. And that's going to be another part of this thing as well. 2015, Clemson, number 1. Alabama started at 4. Michigan State was at number 7. Oklahoma was at 16. Again, another one of those name brands, but still, when you're looking at a month to play in the season, you had 2, and now 2 teams that have come out of the back of the pack to get there. Ultimately, what I'm going to point out is that whether you're Auburn or you're Georgia or you're Florida or Tennessee or whoever you want to point out, you still have an opportunity to get in this thing. That's what this has proven in recent years.
Would you agree, though, if you're 16 and your name is Utah or Boise, it's still going to be harder for you to climb over those other teams?
Much more difficult. But, again, if you're Oklahoma State, you'd have an opportunity.
If you're Georgia,
you have an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So, just because Herbstreit didn't point it out, like I said, you can always make your way back in this thing, even as late as November, if the schedule breaks right for you. That's Front Office Lows, brought to you by Delos Vodka.
I would be interested. Like, Georgia would have no problem because of the name value, hopping from 16 with 2 big wins up to 11 and then 8 and then 7. I wonder about Georgia Tech.
It'd be tougher. But even though they've been more accomplished in recent years than Georgia.
But they're not going to get the benefit of a doubt in some situations. And let's be honest about this. If you think it's just, pick the 4 best teams, no, there's people involved in this.
There's a branding involved.
Always.
There's a reason why Ohio State jumped Baylor and TCU.
Of course. Yeah, no question about it. The TV show that is sports comes into it a lot of times. And I know we don't want to admit that. TCU will never grab the amount of eyes, even in that level of a game, that Ohio State will, and that's never going to change till the end of time.
Texas could come from 16 because it's Texas.
It would have been awesome if Herbie gave me just some out of the blue team that he thinks could be very good. Like, I could have given you those 7
and
teams.
Wake.
Right, exactly. I could have told you, like, if he at the end of it he went Vandy. Vandy's a dark horse.
And Kentucky is my dark horse. I'd be like, possibly.
Way to go, Herbie. Now you're thinking outside the box. I like that, but not giving me Florida State